Hi, I'm Rita Hanna. This is for my EDCI 631 Dr. Green's class. I'm going to go into introducing to you guys my unit, and my topic is language and culture. The reason why I decided to focus on that is that I work with a huge group of Hispanic students that have immigrated from Mexico to California. And a lot of them are EL learners, and I want them to feel more comfortable in a community kind of atmosphere in the classroom or the school or within their own community, so they can feel a little bit more at home with peace, and they can kind of compare and contrast between different cultures and to kind of get the understanding that they're not the only ones in this situation, and that there's a blend of people in the United States that have immigrated from another country to the United States. I'm going to differentiate by setting groups of two or three people in each group, and I think that kids will benefit from that because I'm going to strategically group them with students that may be high in one area for their research project, while someone may have difficulty with it, and vice versa, something that another student can do better than their other partners. I think that if they all have a piece that they can do well, then they can thrive off of the project. The first step is they would have to choose a topic. I'm going to kind of persuade them to choose a cultural background that may be different from their own. Maybe another student, specifically a cultural background of a student in the class. I have a Middle Eastern student, I have a Filipino student, and I have a Chinese student. So I would kind of guide them to maybe research some of those topics other than their own, because I want them to learn more about a different culture and to kind of connect more with the students in the classroom. Now, if they feel the need to want to still research their own culture because they feel like they still have a lot more to learn, I would definitely persuade them to go that route as well. Once they have chosen their topic, the students will go ahead and generate questions or thoughts about what they exactly want to learn about that cultural background and what do they want to find out, such as why did people in that cultural group want to immigrate to the United States? How did they immigrate to the United States? How was their transition in the United States? And so on. Once they figure out where they want to go with their research project, they're going to gather resources. And I'm going to also have them find different types of resources, like an article, video, try to interview somebody of the cultural background that they're researching who actually immigrated from that country, books, and what other sources they can get their hands on. Once they are done with their research or gathering their information, along the way they need to obviously create notes and what they want to include in their project. Now, what you're going to see is a group of people that's going to be in a group of three that's going to be in the middle of the process of trying to generate interview questions, because the interview is going to be a big part of the project, because I think that it's important for them to meet people who have actually gone through the process and come from that country or cultural background that they're researching. I think that it puts things in perspective for them, and they have more of an emotional tie to that cultural background, and they'll learn more about the students or whoever else that comes in their path in life that came from that cultural background. Now, also you are going to see the students try to come up with how they're going to present their information in the best possible way. Whether it's going to be through a PowerPoint, a Prezi, a research report, a poster, bulletin board, whatever they can come up with. And that's another way that I'm differentiating, where I'm leaving it up to the class to go ahead and or up to each group to go ahead and decide how they want to present their final product.
Okay, so I think a great country for our project is the Philippines. And we can start off by, finding a subject who migrated here from the Philippines and figure out which region he's from. And try to determine if there is a significant difference in culture among the regions or within the regions, different regions of the Philippines.
We can even ask him about his migration here and how he adapted in the cultural shock and what their reason for migrating to the United States was.
Well, that's a really good idea. I think we also could ask a little bit about what he plans and how he plans to keep his cultural heritage, if he plans on passing his cultural tradition to his children. And we could even ask about if he ever planning on returning, or does he want to spend the rest of his life over here and his kid, and this is where he wants his ancestors to end up.
I think we all have some really good ideas. It's just, how do you guys want to present it?
Okay, well, I think the easiest way and the most organized way is to use a PowerPoint. But we won't have any bulky slides, we'll just use it to guide us through our presentation. We'll use some quick bullets and maybe add a video clip of our interview with our subject.
Sounds great. I think we also came up with a flow map that could show how our slides would present our findings.
Right. So what we got here is a basic flow map, starting with slide 1, some background information. Moving on to slide 2, the reasons for migrating, and then how the migration process happened, and how he adapted to his new surroundings. Life after migration, and some of your points on whether he plans on staying for good and whether he plans on raising his children with Filipino heritage, American heritage, or a mix. And then we could show some clips from the interview and wrap it up with a conclusion.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me too, I agree.
So what you just saw is what I expect to see in my own classroom among my own students. Them being in a group setting, discussing what kind of resources they're going to use, where are they going to get it from, what questions they're going to come up with for the person that they're going to interview, and how they're going to present their findings or their information. And they need to show proof of like an outline or a graphic organizer to show their thought process before they actually start their final product. Now, they will be graded based on a rubric that would be introduced to them from the beginning of the assignment, and they have to fulfill each component in the rubric. Once they are done with their final product or their presentation, they will present it to the class, and I will encourage them to actually invite the person they interviewed into the class. I think it would be nice for the students to meet that person and for them to ask their own questions. I think it'll add a lot more to the assignment. Now, once we're done with the presentation, we would be moving on to a novel that I want to introduce to them, which is Esperanza Rising. And I think that the kids are going to make a lot of connections with the character Esperanza. She is around the same age as the students, and she had to quickly and drastically leave her country in Mexico to come to California for a better life. And it goes into her journey of how she had to get used to a new country and how she had to adapt and how the struggles that she had along the way, which I think that all the students kind of experienced in some way, shape, or form. Now, although it's really revolved around the Hispanic culture, I won't stick just to the Hispanic culture, because the point is for them to kind of learn more cultures outside of their own. And I'm going to be focusing more on comparing, contrasting between the Hispanic culture and any other culture that is in my classroom. And so we're still going to continuously learn about each other's cultures. And for an example, we will be also learning a lot of Spanish, of the Spanish language, because in the text it does have a huge portion of the Spanish language. And, as we decode it and, talk about what it means, kids will learn or be introduced to this language that's unfamiliar to them. And we would compare other students' languages and how it translates in the same way. So then the students are also being introduced to other languages. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity to compare and contrast through the whole process. Now, after we're done with a novel, I am going to ask for them to somehow show proof of their understanding and comprehension skills, whether it's a flow map that they generate through a PowerPoint or Prezi, how their feelings were throughout the whole process of learning about Esperanza's journey, and also to include how their life or their personal culture is similar or different to Esperanza. They would be also graded based on a rubric, and I think that the students will have a lot of fun with learning more about their own culture and different cultures along the way. And that is how I plan on introducing or bringing in culture into my classroom and having them understand that we're all kind of, most of us are in the same situation or have gone through some kind of process of adapting to something new, whether it's moving from a different country to another country or just moving from another city to a new one. So that is my unit, and I thank you for watching.